Hello, everyone, and happy Monday. As some of you know, I was in Iceland on Friday, in connection with Nordic Women in Tech Awards. Can talk a bit about that. At the same time, I have to say, it felt good to land in Norway as there are some high level of activity happening in Iceland at the moment. There was some earthquakes happening or shakes, and of course there's an expectation for an eruption. I just remember the last one. I think that was in 2015, and I was stranded due to the ash. So let's see what's happening this time. Hopefully everything's okay. And yeah, I hope that you're having a beautiful Monday. And like I said, I had the privilege to be at the Nordic Women in Tech Awards. And I was so impressed with everything. I was impressed about the level of the venue, of the feeling of a gala. Again, those of you who watched my live on Friday, on Thursday, you got to see me all dressed up and ready to attend the award. Beautiful, beautiful place, and everything was so stylish. And I had the pleasure of presenting the Innovator Award. And one of the things that I shared that I felt was really important is that in this room, I could truly say this. Everyone in this world want to change the world. And so many of the women in tech in that room actually do. And that is something that makes me really proud. It makes me really in awe of everything that is possible. And the winner of the Innovator Award was Tove Milleri from Finland, from Yle News Lab. And I loved to be able to recognize her and serve her with this award. The other interesting thing I want to share with you as First Lady Elisa Reid presented. It was really interesting because Iceland is by far the country in the world that has closed the gender gap the most, right? Yet, as she said, it's not closed yet. So there is still quite a lot of work to do. What she focused on was the inertia of the risk, both in Iceland and the Nordic countries, where we are ahead of the game to the rest of the world when it comes to general, from a country perspective of gender and the gender gap. And it's this feeling of it's good enough, right? Look at us, we've done it. I mean, we're a role model. And how dangerous that is to be good enough. And she mentioned one very, very interesting point that caught my attention. And that is that when it comes to private sector, Finland is far behind when it comes to gender balance within organizations. So as a country, there is balance. We have the same in Norway, where we see in public sector, we look at the government, really good. And there is a long way to go on private sector. And where money is, we need to focus on that because private sector is about money. So that's what we say. Where is the money? Money goes with the private sector. And if we want to be part of the change, private sector plays a very important role. And the important role is also something that I'm happy to see as I'm going to COP28 in Dubai, where the private sector is very heavily presented or represented this year, which is quite new. So it's no longer just about the governments, it's actually about private sector. What are we doing? And here it is extremely important to look at gender balance, because gender balance isn't just about women in itself, because when we are getting closer to gender balance, there are so many other things that follows with that. So it's just so really, really important. So I wanted to just quickly share that. Now, the other thing that was just amazing for me, as you all know, if you follow me, and if it's the first time, then I get to tell you that again, everybody wants to change the world. My clients do. And to be in a room and talk to women who are driven, they're on a mission, um, is very inspiring. And I had the pleasure to having this amazing woman next to me on where we did, and she had been focusing on showing up as both support and mentor for an organization for women and girls. What I paid attention to was the restlessness in her to say it's time to go bigger. Like she had a desire to go bigger. And that is something that, in the way I see it, is extremely important. Because when we think really big, we don't always know. Well, we actually don't know. If we are having a big, audacious, hairy goal, then you don't know how to get to that goal. Because if you knew, then it's not very hairy and big. So if you have a vision or a mission, a goal that is just out of this world and you have no idea how to do it, you are leaning more into what does it look like? What does it mean? What is the impact? Why is it so important to me to have this goal, right? And that means that we look more of the opportunities that come our way, where we can say, yes, I can say yes to this opportunity, makes me speak at this stage. And it seems that that is leading me in the direction where I'm going to meet even more people that maybe align with this big, audacious, hairy goal, the mission impossible that I'm on. And that is the power of trusting the process, right? You trust the process because you don't know how. This is something that I get to talk about a lot with my clients, because very often, I would say always actually, when someone or one of my clients or anyone I'm talking to feel a bit overwhelmed or stuck, it usually has one 3-letter word to start with. And it's this: how. How do I do it? How this? How that? So I always say this: if you remove the word how, you don't know the how, which other word will you then choose? Well, it can be what? Sometimes it's even who. Because very often when we ask how, it's almost like I need to figure out how I can do it. And sometimes it's not you that's going to do it. So sometimes, like I experienced with another amazing client of mine, and I've shared this publicly, and she has as well, Åsen Jahen from Optimum Greening and the Agala Project, when she stopped saying, how do I do it? And she asked, who? She realized she wasn't the one that was going to do a particular part of the work, but another one was. And she found the one, and now it could move. So that's what I wanted to share, is that when we find this fire in our belly, when we lit that match because we're like driven towards something, think big and see how the world is now opening up opportunity for you because you are in alignment with this big, hairy, audacious goal. Ask yourself, who do I need to be? Who do I need to become to be that person that holds this vision in her hand, right? So sometimes I do a practice with my clients and saying, okay, imagine that you have it all. You have this vision in your hand, is there. You're living it out. You have created this nonprofit organization that is helping all these people. You've created this new technology that is capturing emission or calculating the data, or you have won the Nobel Peace Prize for XYZ. What kind of decisions does that version of you do? What action would that person, that version of you, take? And come from that version of you now. What will you say yes to? What would you say no to? What would be a absolutely no-brainer yes? It might be a stage you would go and talk on because as a person who has done all these things and sitting with this impossible vision realized, you would go on any stages and you would talk about it, right? And if in this moment you're really scared of going on stages, what we want to do is say, how would that future self of yours think about that? What advice would she have to you? So, yes, as you can see, I'm actually very excited after this trip. And I'm curious what's showing up for you. The other thing I want to share as well is I pay attention to words and languages that these women have when they're talking about what is their pain that makes them like, oh, it's time to move. And very often the words I hear, and I think one of the words that is most used is I feel restless. And I've shared this as many of my lives. I feel restless. I feel that there's so much more to do. And in that, sometimes feeling held back, a bit frustrated about the work situation. Sometimes I also feel that sometimes also what that's being expressed is I feel that I'm not really heard inside the organization. Um, and what I've come to discover is that instead of thinking that I'm not heard because they don't really take interest in what I'm saying, is that sometimes you might not be heard because you're speaking on a much higher level than the people in the organization who sits around you. They don't capture where you're coming from. And now it's important for you to think, what will it take for me to still move on with the idea I have versus thinking I'm constantly beaten, I'm constantly kind of pushed down, or maybe my idea isn't good enough, or maybe when somebody else presents that idea, because that's also very often happening, is that you share something and then somebody else says it later on, usually a man, and then, oh, what a great idea. It's to think about, why is this a must for me? And bring it back to you, because it's not just an idea, it's what's coming behind this idea, behind the words that you shared that maybe somebody else is picking up on. But that person might be missing a big part of your thinking behind it. So never go shy of bringing it back in and saying, yes, as whoever said, I said earlier, and this is the thinking behind it. Really own it, because we need access to more women's ideas and thinking, because as Einstein said, you cannot solve the problem with the same mindset of thinking that created it to start with. We need to think differently. And 50% of the population isn't really represented in tech in so many arenas, right? Anyway, that's what I wanted to share, and I hope that you are, having a good day. I always love to hear from you, and with that, I am going to say bye, and bye for now.